Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not while you can, monkey boy.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Welcome, one and all, to Saturday Night Drive-In, the conclusion of our Lord of the Rings, I guess, journey. We'll call it a journey. We have been celebrating the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the past 3 weeks and culminating in the anniversary of Return of the King. The whole point that I did this so that we could be here and now talking about it when it's, well, let's say Return of the King is always relevant, but it's really relevant this week because it is the 20th anniversary. I am joined by the boys. First of all, my co-host, my sometimes life partner, Jed, the Hollywood Scholar. Jed, good day to you, my friend. I haven't seen you all week.
All week, I know. It's so weird, but with my schedule, I don't get to see my life partner as often as I would like. Yeah. But it's great to be here talking about one of the greatest movies ever made, and I'm excited just to jump in and talk about it.
Yes. All right, and we are joined again, as we have been for this little series, by both Mustang and Uber fan Dermy Wormy.
Oh, shit.
Uber.
I literally just got off.
Uber gay. On. Uber gay.
I literally just got off.
I was told you were super. You were fanboying someplace on a stream.
I was fanboying over Amanda Miller over on the Legion stream. She came on and it was bad.
Do you need a moment?
I got a stream with Amanda Miller, Sailor Jupiter.
I see. The name might be familiar to you. I try not to put names to faces for voice actors because sometimes it takes me out of my suspension of disbelief when I'm.
She's also Boruto.
I don't like Boruto.
I don't care, but I don't
like Boruto. I think Boruto should not exist, but that's an anime discussion for 2 weeks from now on Anime Odyssey. We're here to talk different nerd shit. We're here to talk Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Mustang, recruiting red shirts. Yes, some people might not know what that means, but let's just say Mustang has his own little private army that he will gladly let die.
Growing.
Yeah, growing.
And Dermy, you've got people you need to get out of the cooker.
We call that the gym.
We call that the gym, and also I have other stuff I have to do. I'm not you, Mustang. I can't just turn on Conan and start playing 24/7.
See, I got some
Conan. You sound more gay tonight.
Oh, you should have heard him last night. It was even worse.
See, I got my Conan time in today. I played it while watching Return of the King. I was not. I won't call it multitasking because I don't like multitasking, but I was just getting everything done.
That's blasphemy. You can't.
That's
when
literally the definition
Dude,
of multitasking.
It's no.
When Return of the King comes on, when any of
I
the Lord
have
of the Rings trilogy
excellent
comes on,
peripheral vision.
Still multitasking.
When any of the Return of the King, when any of the Lord of the Rings movie comes on, you drop everything, sit your ass down, and watch that. You can't do other things at the same time.
No, see, I have a partial photographic memory. I can hear it and see at the same time, and it's right here. It's literally right here while I'm playing.
That's blasphemy. You can't do that. That's wrong.
You absolutely can.
Okay, Dermy can't.
There you go.
Go fuck yourselves.
Dermy can't multitask like Adam and
No, I can multitask very well.
Yeah, but he
can't talk about that.
He could be on a stream and have one hand beneath this camera very easily. All right, anyway, let's get started, guys. All right, I see. I made that joke knowing you were going to respond like that. Anyway, how are we doing, chat? Ignore our crass opening humor. We're happy to have you here. We hope you enjoy this. If you're watching on the replay, we hope you enjoy the rest of the show. I'm going to start this one a little differently than the previous two. Instead of asking for your favorite scene, considering it's the anniversary, I'm going to ask you, do you remember the first time you saw it?
Yes.
Okay, Mustang, why don't you go first?
Vero Beach. The theater was crowded, and probably the first time I can remember nobody brought kids. It was more mature audience. People wanted to actually see it because the first two had already been out, so they didn't want interruptions. And the theaters cell phones were really just getting popular, and boy, they were.
2003.
Yeah, they told people take them out and put them in your car. They didn't want those in there. They had ushers. I mean, it was the first time since Star Wars I'd seen ushers patrolling.
It was such a short turnaround from Two Towers because the way they, of course, filmed them and then released them to make sure you got this right near each other, that everybody wanted to be there.
Yeah.
They wanted to be there. They were excited to be there. So it was an experience, wasn't it?
Popcorn was free. Popcorn was free for it.
See, when I was in New York, so I'm going to tell my story in a moment. So there was no free popcorn in New York.
Yeah, no, there wouldn't be there.
Happening.
Well, now they do. It's called the 5-finger discount.
Yeah.
Don't press.
Yeah. Dermy, when did you first? What was your first? When did you first see it? Obviously, opening night. Because
obviously, I actually didn't get to see it in the theater. I had to wait till it came out on VHS because that's how my family rolled. We didn't go to the theaters a lot. When we did, it was a special occasion like birthdays or something like that. So when it came out on VHS, I can remember it very vividly because it was the first time I had to put in the second VHS for a movie. And every time
VHS, that's funny because the DVDs existed at that point.
Yeah, but we didn't have a DVD player. I didn't have very much, but also I don't think the place we rented movies had DVDs yet. So.
Okay.
Anyways, every time I watch Return of the King now, I'm trying to remember because I think it's right after Frodo throws Gollum off into the
spoiler.
They don't throw him off. They in the movie they fall at the same time.
No. This is after Shelob.
Oh, Shelob. Oh, okay. Before. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I believe right after that is when you had to put in the second VHS.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty weird place.
I mean, I know by heart. I've had an extended edition version. I've had two. I've had the DVD extended edition, and I have the Blu-ray extended edition, and it ends in the same spot on both of them. Of course, you probably had the theatrical version back then.
Yeah, I had.
So it's going to end in a different spot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're saying.
I remember that, and I can remember sitting down watching it, going like, "No, I don't want to put the next one in. I want you to just keep going. Don't do this to me. I want to watch. It's so good." It was such a moment of pure joy. I loved it. It culminated in this, and I can also remember. I don't actually count this because I didn't get to watch it. I only got up to when the elves were leaving, but my dad wanted to see the movie so badly. He found it was when they were first doing like get a digital copy, rent it, and then you have X amount of hours to watch it.
Mhm.
He got it on a Wednesday, and he sat me and my brother down in front of our crappy PC and said, "Watch this before we go to church." And we didn't get to finish it. And we came back, had to go to bed,
And
woke up the next
expired.
morning, and it expired. And my dad was so
Oh,
pissed.
yeah. I remember I used to have that kind of thing where you could rent a movie on the PlayStation Store in the aughts, and you had it for like 48 hours,
Mhm.
and then it would stop working. I did that with Guardians of the Galaxy when it first came out because I'd skipped it in the theaters. I hadn't had time to go see it, so I rented it. But yeah,
My dad
I
was
get
so
that. I get
pissed
that.
because he didn't get to watch it, and he was
Mm. Mm.
so
See-
immediately that next Friday we rented it.
That's acceptable. It's a good recovery. Jed, what was it like? What did you do the first time? What were you doing the first time you saw this?
Well, when I saw it this Thursday for the 20th anniversary release, the person I went with leaned over to me partway through the movie and asked, "Hey, how many times did you watch it in theaters when it first came out?"
Oh no.
Not realizing that I'd never watched it once in theaters. I don't remember the first time I watched this movie because I was 3 when it came out.
I know I was gonna say you were a
So
kid.
I have no idea when I watched this movie for the first time. It's before I can remember, at least before I was 8. At some point, I'd seen it, but
Yeah.
I've got no clue. I've got no clue.
Yeah, see, I see. Like Mustang, I was there for opening week. I don't remember. It might have been. I think it was Friday. I was in New York. I was in culinary school, and my then best friend from college was passing through, and he was staying with me for the week into the weekend. And we specifically lined up because he was going to be there. We were going to go see Return of the King together, and we were both. He's the one that got me into tabletop miniature gaming, Warhammer to be specific. We are huge Warhammer guys, and we went in there, packed theater. We were sitting. We got there at a point though where it's New York City, Manhattan, middle of the city. The theater was basically a 5-8 minute walk from where I was staying, so we walked there, and we got there. We had to sit on the side. I like to try and get. We got there as early as we could. We had to sit on the side, and I was pissed off because I like being as close to the center as I can. And this is, of course, 2003. There's no such thing as stadium seating yet. You got to hope some dumb son of a bitch ain't taller than you, and you got a head in the way. But it was okay. We're watching it, and we were a little closer than I wanted to be, but it was still okay. It wasn't bad. I wasn't going like this to watch it. We were enthralled. And being two gentlemen who have zero shame in a movie theater, when the Rohirrim crest the ridge over Minas Tirith, and you look up there, and then Theoden gives his speech, and they charge down there. We both went like this. No shame. And the theater was dead quiet. We just went, yeah, no shame, because to us, that's a Warhammer army charging down into a line of orcs. And we were just like, yes, yes, yes. And no shame. We just, yeah, it was great. We didn't care. Nobody shushed us, but we were totally into it, and it was great. And we had a great ass time in that one. So that's my memory of going to see Return of the King opening. I want to say opening night, because this is back before they did Thursdays. Everything it opened on a Friday. That was it. You were there or not. So I believe it was that original Friday night. I think back then we spent $12 on a ticket, and I was aghast at that. Now it's like I'd be happy to pay $12.
Man, that's about how much I spend for a ticket.
I'd be happy to spend that on a ticket now. I mean, I remember I'm old as dirt. We spent for years. It was $5 for a ticket.
Back at the
back when Star Wars Celebration started in 199.
Yeah. See, now I know what that means. I know what I was watching last night. I know what that means because I missed that. I'd missed that little thing on that episode. I didn't watch that day, but now I know what that means. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sure the chat, you guys have your own experiences, but it was a thing. This was the culminating event of the trilogy. Oh, everybody was excited. We were all hooked. Everybody was happy, and everybody was satisfied. Now, of course, we were even more satisfied a year later when we all started getting our hands on extended edition and things made sense. I mean, they were I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Return of the King is the one of the three that best exemplifies the, what's a good word to say, the proper expansion of the movie. Because there are moments in this that seem, if you watch a theatrical version, that seem a little off. But then you watch the extended edition and it makes sense. Particularly, and I know Mustang, you talked about this last week, that because they happened to, because of the way they did it, they managed to save it for you, at least to an extent. When they face Saruman in Isengard,
yes,
and having Grima kill him, the way they did it in the theatrical cut, they didn't show him getting killed.
No, they did not. They absolutely did not.
They didn't show him getting killed. They just showed the wheel turning and Pippin finding the Palantir. And it's like, what?
I have a hot take here.
Go for it.
I prefer the theatrical version. Yes, it's important to see how Saruman dies. I wish we would have gotten it in theatrical, but I think the extended version is still pretty jank too. From like how after Saruman dies, Tribute never turns around to face Saruman. He's just keep facing the group. Saruman dies behind him. He's like, trees will begin to live here. And it's like, the fuck you talking about? He just died.
The Treebeard CGI is a little janky.
It's a little
in that
off,
opening scene too. Yeah.
And if Saruman had literally just died right there, and then Pippin runs towards the body, everybody's gonna freak out more than Aragorn going, Pippin, the hell are you doing? They would be like, whoa, what the fuck are you going towards that body for? This is weird, this is wrong. But if it was just in the theatrical where, nothing's going on and he sees something in the water and he goes and gets it, that Aragorn's response is equivalent in the theatrical cut. In the extended edition, his response is not the way it should be. And there's a lot of little things like that. Like, yes, I think it's important that we see how Saruman dies, and I love that it's Grima, just like Mustang talked about previously when it came to changing it from the books. But I think the extended edition version is way more jank than in the theatrical.
My actual problem with that scene is, what the hell is that wheel? What is this wheel used for? It bothers me.
It was probably part of the orc industry modifications, because they were turning that into industry.
It's still weird to it's weird because it's not a gear. Like, because it has spikes, it can't operate as a gear.
And it can't be
I don't know.
Watermill,
I'm trying to defend it, and I guess
it's weird. It has those holes.
It's a wheel of pain.
That doesn't even make sense.
It's an odd place to keep a wheel of pain, if that is what it is. But they pointed out in the chat, the Mouth of Sauron is a necessary part, and I love the Mouth of Sauron edition.
We'll get to that in a second, because that scene, there was supposed to be a whole different thing with that too. But Mustang, you said last week that because they at least had Grima kill Saruman, it saved it for you.
Yeah, well, the theatrical cut, because I didn't think we were going to get into it, it left you believing they were going to actually do Scouring of the Shire. And the theatrical cut did. Now, I heard the story behind it is that Peter wanted to do Scouring, but that production wouldn't put forth the money for the rest of that budget. So that's where we ended up with the two. And I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds logical, because I know Peter has said he wanted to do it. So
Scouring's not a large portion of the book. Like, it
no,
really is pretty
it can
short.
be left out of the book. I mean, it's honestly it's Tolkien talking about the ravages of war. And that's really all it was.
We saw nearly the entirety of the ravages of the Scouring of the Shire in Frodo's vision in Fellowship. That was that's most of what we needed for the Scouring. So if they were already filming those scenes, they've already put the money for it for most of it.
It didn't make sense. I mean, it's one of those that I can look past it, because it's just, both of them are great the way they did it for Return of the King. But they both had a little things that I'm going, and that's on editing and production from everything that I have heard over the years. It's not taken away from the story in any way for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'll also say just a small thing about that, the Sauron death. I love not Christopher Lee. Yeah, Christopher Lee's comments of that's not how a man actually sounds when he gets stabbed. I'll show you what a man actually sounds.
That story's fun.
There are a lot of Christopher Lee stories associated with all this stuff, and I've heard a few. They're great. Now, speaking about openings, I forgot we didn't get to talk about it last week because I forgot personally because it was something I did want to talk about, but I found a way to get to it. Now that we've gone through all three movies at this point, the prologue for each one. The original in Fellowship, the prologue, the history, that was one of my favorite scenes when we talked about it on Fellowship. We didn't talk about it last week, but I love Gandalf's plummet fight with the Balrog. I love it. It's one of my favorite scenes. We moved away from favorite scenes last week, so I didn't get to talk about it, but I love that. What do you guys think of the Gollum prologue for Return of the King?
I love it. Just jumping in, like, it's the most important thing in my opinion about Gollum's character is showing where Frodo could end up. He's seen Gollum and he's seen Bilbo, who's partway along the journey to Gollum, and he's beginning to see himself depict Gollum-esque behaviors. It's essential for Frodo to know where he's going to end up. And so we get an additional layer of that contrast that makes it such a powerful story between those two characters when we see, yes, Gollum was 100% just a regular dude at one point. And so it makes it, I think that makes the comparison way more impactful if you see the before and the after. And the transitional shots, those were where Gollum creeped me out the most. Like that one shot where he's just holding the ring, he's partway between Smeagol and Gollum, and he just, my precious. That one always creeped me out as a kid.
I do like the final shot where his eyes go from normal to Gollum eyes. And where he blinks and something's like, bleh. It's like, oh, okay, that's good.
When I first saw that, I thought that was Michael Jackson. I was like, oh, they got Michael Jackson in this movie.
Jesus Christ.
I was a kid.
Have you ever seen Thriller?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I was a wee kid. I wasn't deep into all that stuff. And I go like, oh, they got Michael Jackson. He looks kind of weird.
And it told a neat little story. Like, I love talented writing that can do condensed stories very well. And we got a great relationship between Deagle and Smeagol. We got the way they interacted with each other, great performances, and their vitriolic turn on each other. Like, it was
because of the ring. The ring just instantly. There was no downtime. Deagle has the ring.
It could be its own short film, and I would say it was a great short film. Like, cut that out of the movie and make it its own deal. I think it would be phenomenal. Like, I love the prologue.
It'd have been like the Witcher series that one guy's doing. They're super short, but they're so good.
But that whole prologue just shows how strong the ring actually is. And you've been getting moments of its power of corruption, of its power of enticement, and getting people to do things that are out of the ordinary, but this it took hold like that of not just
boom.
Not just Smeagol, but also Deagle. They were both wanting to kill each other over that ring.
Yeah, and it was a little. Nimbus brings it up interesting to see Andy Serkis without the CGI on him. That was a little shocking because I was wait, okay, that's the actual guy who's behind the CGI because this is 20 years ago. I'm a little whoa, okay, I wasn't prepared for that. But yeah, and because then he spoke in the voice, and I realized, oh yeah, okay, that's the actual guy. All right, okay, because that's the first time any of us heard of Andy Serkis. Let's be honest.
I was 6 when this movie came out. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, you're a child. Anyway,
can we address Horniel's question in the comments? What do you think about how fast Smeagol turned versus how long it took?
Well, how many years does that depict?
Well, Smeagol murders within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, then think about it like this. Perhaps it speaks to what's inside because we've spoken about this over the 3 movies. The ring's effect on people and how long it takes, and it depends on what dark part of their personality will twist. We've mentioned that it took a long time with Bilbo because Bilbo was pure of heart, and he didn't lust, he didn't desire things in life. Frodo was a pure innocent, not ideologue, but idealistic. And again, the other example thing, Faramir resisted it. We talked about it last week because he didn't desire the power, unlike Boromir, who desired the power to save, but that was the hook that got into that. The Faramir's desire was to earn his father's love, and the ring, yes, it could have gotten him some love because we see his father freak out in this one. You could have brought me this kingly gift. Well, Boromir would have brought me this kingly gift. Denethor might have got it, but Faramir realized deep down that the ring would not have, because he says it in this movie. He says, when talking about Boromir, he would not have been your son that came back to you. And Faramir understood that, which I think is why he was able to resist the ring. Now, he never touches the ring. But Smeagol never touched the ring, and it got its hooks in him. And really, he just saw it in Deagle's hand, and he had it instantly. So I guess it speaks to the deepest, darkest recesses of what's in your soul. And are you going to what are you holding onto beneath your subconscious that may make you vulnerable to the ring?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of examples of it. Just like you said, it's 100% dependent on the person. Like Gandalf said, he would turn nearly immediately if he ever picked up the ring. He was not even going to pick it up off the floor. He was so worried about turning immediately. And then, to the examples you gave, even Sam was starting to have some issues after just carrying it for a couple hours. And we know how pure of heart he is.
But Sam gave it up. He did.
He did resist, but he was starting to feel it that soon. And Frodo didn't feel it as initially soon. And something that I've actually seen this argument before for Frodo versus Smeagol, because Frodo, he was around the ring his whole life. And so, like, he built up a tolerance. Like, it's kind of peripheral effects. He'd slowly built up more and more of a relationship with him. So it was much more gradual because he was raised by Bilbo. So the ring was always near him from a young age. I think it makes sense. It might be a bit of a stretch, but I like the idea of he was born to be the ring bearer.
I want to throw this to Mustang but I want to say one thing before I throw it to Mustang. Is it fair to say, though, that the ring was dormant for most of Frodo's life? No?
No, it was not.
Okay.
That ring is never dormant. It was always searching. It wanted to go back.
Well, then, just to play devil's advocate, then how come when it lost itself for hundreds of years before Deagle and Smeagol found it, it lay dormant at the bottom of the river?
Well, it only lay dormant because nobody could get to it.
Yeah,
the moment
there is something in Galadriel's voiceover in the Fellowship's prologue, though, is it was content with Gollum, and then it chose to abandon him. It still decided that hanging out with Gollum for 500 years was a good choice because it actively chose to abandon him, according to Galadriel. So, it can be dormant at some periods. Maybe not during that period.
It is your id. That is the best way to describe it, and that gets into a deep psyche discussion when you're talking about the id. And Forbidden Planet did that probably the best of any movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, and Smeagol is also technically a different species than hobbits, so there's
Riverfolk.
Riverfolk are technically different, and every species reacts to it differently as well. Not only just individual people within a species.
Like humans are the easiest ones to succumb to what it has.
Yes,
there are two examples in that we see in the movies. One, we talk about Fenrir, and then Aragorn resisted it in the end of Fellowship when Frodo is getting ready to leave. He sees it in Aragorn looks at Frodo's hand. The ring is there, and he just closes Frodo's hand over it, and he lets him go. So Aragorn, now, is that because of has Aragorn purposely fighting because he's so afraid of the weakness in his blood, as he puts it at one point?
His love is for Arwen, so he doesn't care about it. That's what his love is.
Okay.
No,
it really asks the question for every character that comes in contact: what is their heart's desire?
Well, yeah, and Aragorn, he does fear his own bloodline, just like you said, because several times he talks about, I have the same weakness as Isildur. I am of Isildur's bloodline, so he's actively thinking about it all the time, actively, constantly fighting the influence of the ring. He's aware of the struggle the whole time, and I think that does help. Whereas someone like Boromir doesn't necessarily know off the bat, hey, this thing is going to be tempting you.
And and to quote Galadriel, out of a desire to Gandalf out of a desire to do good, which is all Boromir wants to do is defend his people, defend his home. The ring will, of course, then make him do evil because the ring wants one thing only, to get back to Sauron. That's all it wants, because it is Sauron. It was made with his soul infused into it. So it wants to return to its master, to the one Lord of the Rings. So it's a fascinating thing. So I like Jed's theory that there's certain resistances depending on your species. I like also the theory of, like Mustang said, what's in your heart? What do you desire? I think a lot of factors play into how susceptible you are to the ring. And I think Smeagol's instant fall is because maybe there was greed and desire in his heart always. And of course, you need more to go with that. But I think that's why it got him so easily, because that's what was in his heart. Greed and desire.
Well, the ring's most important thing in the movie for the viewer, if they understand, it challenges you to ask yourself, what is your desire? What is your kryptonite, basically?
Well, it's all about power. Well, not power, but corruption. It takes a hold of you and corrupts you, and it wants to find that end.
Well, it's the theme of the whole thing. There is no compromise with evil. This is an object of pure evil, and you will never compromise with it. It will always direct to evil.
The idea of absolute power absolutely corrupts.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing about the ring. I mean, the interesting thing about the ring, I've always found it so interesting, is its power is basically it's domination. That's its power. It weakens the mind. I mean, I'm trying to think of this not from I'm trying to think of this from I'll be honest, from a DM's perspective, because for years when I watch these movies, I would kind of classify what am I looking at from a D&D perspective. A perfect example in the movie when Gandalf confronts Sauron, he uses power word magic to destroy Saruman's staff. Your staff is broken. It's a power word, basically, to destroy it. Same thing. The Angmar uses a power word to destroy Gandalf's staff with his sword, that kind of stuff. So I classify that, and I've always tried to classify for myself if I was writing down the ring's description on an item, stats and this and that. What are the ring's powers? And for me, it was always the domination, and the domination, it goes from there in a tree. The domination, the ability to warp the mental aspects, and basically the ring will make people weaker around whoever the wielder is. They will submit because I said domination, but then they submit because it makes them feel hopeless in front of it. But then what are its other powers? The corruption aspect, but then that's a internal thing that doesn't necessarily automatically corrupt things in wide swath. I mean, I mean, Mustang, you might be the best one to answer this. The ring's powers. I mean, Tolkien did this obviously because Tolkien liked to use nebulous descriptions for stuff in terms of because he wanted to not have it be defined. Is that a correct way to say that?
Yeah. Well, he wanted the people to look at the ring and look at themselves inside. Mm-hmm. You got to remember the war was very fresh in his mind. Mm-hmm. Not just the first one, but World War II, everything else. He's constantly doing that. And then he, being Catholic, he was looking back at the wars through history. Mm-hmm. And you got to get into his letters, and he explains a little bit, but he's always very vague about it because he wants that left up to the reader.
That's the thing about Tolkien, and that is a Tolkien tactic when he writes. He puts a lot on the reader to let them form their own judgment, and that's just his style, and it's the way it works. So I guess that's why I'm always trying to question what are the ring's defined powers, because it's in my it's up to me to try and decipher from my opinion or my interpretation of what can the ring actually do. because the ring, you can't take the ring and wave your hand and smite an army. No, that only works if Sauron is wearing the ring and people cower in fear from him, and then he can start smiting because they are bending the knee in front of him because the ring is sapping their will to fight. At least that's how I interpreted it. Jed, you have a question from Algrim. He wants to bring up
so
go ahead and answer that.
So Treebeard, he's facing the party when he says the filth of Saruman is washing away. He's not facing Saruman's body or the tower. So that's what I was talking about. Is he doesn't turn towards the tower. He doesn't look. He's just looking down at Gandalf, and he's like, "Yeah, the filth of Saruman's washing away." Really awkward line to say, especially after Saruman just got impaled right next to him and rolled over, and he immediately goes, "Hey, it's washing away, mate, and trees are going to come back to." It's just really awkward, even with that line.
Well,
it's super, super awkward.
Well, that also goes to just who Treebeard is. He doesn't care about a lot of this stuff. All he cares about is the trees. All he cares about is all that stuff. So
there's still a way to do things, and what we established in Two Towers is they take a long time to say anything, do anything. So I imagine him at least taking a couple seconds to, but immediately he's like, "Filth of Sauron's washing away. There's trees now, mate," and it's like, all right, I thought you'd take a second to say things. It's awkward to me. It just feels very, very awkward. So if it in the extended edition, the filth of Sauron is taken in more of a literal sense, and in the theatrical cut, the filth of Sauron is washing away is taken more in a metaphoric sense. And I think the line works a lot better. They come up, they walk up, that conversation runs a lot more smoothly. He's like, Sauron is in his tower, there he must remain, and then Treebeard's like, filth of Sauron is washing away. Like, we don't need to worry about him anymore. His strength is faded. His power is faded. It flows naturally. That conversation works better, in my opinion, between Gandalf and Treebeard. Each line seems to come in logical succession to each other, and no one's having unrealistic reactions to things. Everyone's reactions seem appropriate. So it feels like reshoots to me, honestly, with the Sauron's death. That's what it always felt like to me. Like they had originally planned on the theatrical cut, and then later on they decided to do reshoots and try to shove in these extra stuff into the theatrical conversation. Because yes, Sauron, we need to see him die, but it just not a great situation either way. In the theatrical one, the dialogue is just, it's a lot smoother. And yeah, like the reactions, that's a big thing for me. Aragorn barely reacting to Pippin running towards Sauron's body. That would be weird. And Treebeard's reaction to Sauron dying, just, it doesn't feel proper. The theatrical version, I just think, flows in a more logical fashion, in a more realistic manner, in a way that makes sense from a writing perspective.
Okay, I hope that Algrim got an answer of that. Okay, Mustang, you say something?
Yeah, I pulled up chat when you said that because I want to see what Algrim had said, and I'd also see that was a great answer from Jeb. But Nimbus asked, "Was Smeagol store Hobbit?" Actually, after last week's discussion with me and Dermy, I went and looked it up. It's in Riddles in the Dark from Tolkien. He is a store Hobbit. There is no question he's a Hobbit.
Really? I've always only heard him as Riverfolk.
He's a Riverfolk. I never thought it was actually confirmed.
Yep.
That he was a Hobbit or not.
That was in Riddles in the Dark.
Okay.
I had to actually go pull out the books.
Information provided. Okay, now
very nice.
Say on this line to extended edition things. One of the things that I think was a great addition, which also explains something that clearly was cut and then reinserted for the same edition, is when Gandalf and Pippin are rushing to try and keep Denethor from burning him and Faramir alive.
Mm-hmm.
They encounter Angmar.
Mm-hmm.
And in the theatrical cut, that is not a theatrical cut. So when before that, Gandalf has his staff and he's looking okay. But then when he arrives to rescue Faramir, he doesn't have a staff and he looks all haggard to shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wondered, that felt weird. But then I saw the extended edition, and then you see his confrontation with the Witch King, and that's why he doesn't have a staff. And then when you see him in the tomb, now it makes sense why he's got shadows under his eyes, why he looks so detailed, because the Witch King laid a mini beatdown on him in terms of just presence and shattering.
That was
and
cut with theater time constraints.
Yeah, but it makes now. But that's one of those things that, wow, I'm glad that's in there because now that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a very, very necessary scene.
Yeah, because now it's like, okay, now I see why Gandalf looks all. Where's his staff? because his staff is gone the rest of the movie. So okay, now I want to talk about this, or we'll talk about cutscenes, and then we'll dive into the movie because Jed's got to leave early tonight. So I want to get into a bunch of stuff.
We'll leave on time.
On time. We go over time because it's Lord of the Rings. But one of the other, it was mentioned earlier in the chat, the Mouth of Sauron scene. That's extended edition all the way. Now, originally, they also wanted to do a different version of having Aragorn duel Sauron, the fair version of Sauron.
Instead of the troll.
Instead of the troll. And all that. So that entire thing, the version we have now is this. How do you guys feel about
did they want him to duel, or they wanted him to actually see the fair version?
No, the troll was like it wasn't the fair skinned is what I heard. It was the black clad armor from the prologue of Fellowship because it had to be taller. Because originally the way I've always heard it is the troll 3D model was replacing Sauron's bigger model.
Okay.
So when Aragorn fights the troll at the Battle of the Black Gate, he's actually fighting Sauron.
What I'm thinking of is I'm thinking of the part where he first sees him. It's fair version, and then he would transform because I've always seen
the deleted scene is out there, and I have seen it. It starts out with Sauron as actually a white angel, showing
that
what
doesn't
he would
start
be.
there.
That's the part.
I knew the fight scene was big, but I didn't know it started.
Yeah, that's the screen cap I've always seen. That he's the fair version, and that's what we see. Yeah.
They were in a pretty tough position with it, and I agree with the way that they went with this change because in the books, at least from what I remember, it's been a long time since I read them, the eye was always more a metaphor and not really something that was actually at the top of Barad-dûr that people could see, that people saw when they put on the ring.
Yeah.
And so when they decided to make a flaming eye the physical, not necessarily the metaphoric representation of Sauron, that would have created some confusion for the audience members who weren't familiar with the book. So I think because they made the change that I love of the fiery eye, it would have just created too much confusion by having a physical form of Sauron as well. So I think they did their best to balance out their change.
They do show his physical form.
I dropped the link in the private chat.
His death.
In
the
Palantir, he's within the
eye.
That's
a
I wouldn't say that
vision sequence.
I wouldn't say that's his physical form. That's just him. He has the Palantir in the eye, and he's using it to project himself as he was seen through the eye to Aragorn. That's how I've always interpreted that.
Yeah, there's enough reasonable doubt in that scene to not confuse the audience who is unaware of how things took place in the book. There's enough reasonable doubt for people who think he's just a flaming eye right now.
Yeah, then him showing, that's just what he's showing Aragorn to try and disturb him, saying, "Yeah, it's me. I got the Palantir. We are talking here." So the Mouth of Sauron scene, I always like that because that dude's creepy as hell, and it really sets the moment. And also I like it because it's Aragorn's defiance of, we're not going to treat. We're done. We have one purpose. We're distracting. We are acting as distraction. So Frodo has this last chance. Let's see. Okay. So where do we go from here? Because right now we've had some really good discussion so far. Stuff I haven't heard in other streams when people talk about this thing. Well, let's just jump right to it. Dermy, you said Theodrin is your favorite character.
Yes.
And he gets, I feel like this is, one could say the battle at Pelennor Fields is his redemption for his screw ups at Helm's Deep. How do you feel about that?
100%. The whole leading on to Gondor was his redemption, was his final moments. And there was, before they left, actually 2 Pelennors Deep, and before they have the little camp scene where they're scouting the area, he makes a comment to Arwen, which I don't think was in the theatrical cut. I think that's on Eowyn. Their names are too similar. Anyways,
I'm here to help you.
Yes, I've also been drinking a bit. Anyways, I'm a drunk. He talks about how this is his final end. He makes claim that he's not coming back. He knows this is going to be his end, and he wants this to be glorious end. He doesn't think they're all going to survive. He wants to go out there and fight and honor their oaths that they've made. So this is him redeeming his fuck ups.
Mhm.
And I don't even think it's for Helm's Deep so much. I think this is more for he's still beaten up because he was taken over by Saruman.
Mhm.
And I think that's what he's still trying to redeem himself for. I don't even think
Well,
it's for
his
Helm's Deep.
final words to Eowyn, I can now go into the presence of my forefathers, in whose presence I shall not now be ashamed.
Well, yeah, but also he
Yeah.
made comments about that even before Helm's Deep of he feels ashamed. He's always been feeling ashamed. He feels like a lesser king. That's always been a comment. He's a lesser king among. He's the lesser.
Well, that
king
was Saruman talking.
That's Saruman, but also
Yeah.
in Two Towers, he makes comments looking at the mounds of these were all great men. I'm not.
Mhm.
He's always felt not equal to these guys, and this was his moment to finally feel like an equal.
Mhm.
He ain't gonna come back, but he's gonna sure as hell do his best. Which is why I love him.
That's why in that during the battle, when Angmar comes on down, they get a great shot of Bernard Hill's expression as Witch King is swooping in, and it's just a look
The
of
fucks.
ah shit.
There was a lot
I
of
love
those
how there's no
fucks.
fear. He's just like,
It's like it's like, oh come on. It's basically, oh come on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they were rallying, they were bringing down the elephants, everything. They and I have a lot to say about the strategy. Lord of the Rings military strategy. Everybody charge. There's no strategies. There's no guile. There's no nothing. No tactics. It's just everybody charge. Hope for the best. Except for Gandalf, who used the sunlight in Two Towers.
Mhm.
But they rallied. And his look on his face, I always lock in on that. Just the shit, and he's dead.
Well, there was roughly 4 oh shit faces in this whole movie.
Mhm.
There's Gandalf when the trolls break through the door. There's 2 from King Theoden, and then there's one from I can never remember the orc's name because it's deep, but the orc that's leading the charge.
The crippled war boss, as I always refer
Yeah.
to him as.
Yeah,
Which
when
to me, and I know this is Tolkien orcs, but to me, a crippled orc war boss, that doesn't make sense to me. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but when he takes a look and sees the Rohirrim cresting the hill, he gives an oh shit face.
He stumbles back a little bit.
Actually, his oh shit face is when I know what we're talking about. I think his oh shit face is really the moment when the Rohirrim are charging in and the arrows are not stopping them, and it's just like, oh shit, they ain't stopping, and then the cavalry just splits right through the ranks.
You guys are forgetting the oh shit when they decide to go up to the pirate ships. They got friends coming and realize you got more than friends coming.
Yeah.
You and what army? This army. And then that's another added scene for the extended edition that was not in theatrical release. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, since we've talked mainly about the differences between the 2 editions in this stream, there's one that I definitely want to add in as someone who's aspires to be a history buff. One of my favorite interactions that is exclusively in the extended edition is when Gandalf is explaining the fall of Gondor to Pippin. It's like they focus too much on creating epic burial grounds for their
Gazing
ancestors,
at the stars,
forgetting about the people and quality of life, and just a really neat and very well worded description of a fall of a society that echoes the fall of Rome in some areas. Egypt was definitely the one that hyper emphasized tombs, and it led to the downfall of their society in a certain aspect of financial, if nothing else. And there's just some really interesting comparisons to be made with history. So I just love how Gandalf puts it, and it's all VO pretty much in a wide sweeping shot of the city. But that interaction, I find fascinating.
Sir Ian is stellar in this movie, and I want to touch on this before Jed has to go because I want his opinion on this, because we always like to talk about show don't tell around here. Sir Ian has a lot of great speeches, but there's a moment, and this one always gets me because it always makes you question Denethor. What the hell is wrong with you? When Denethor is going to send Faramir and all of 20 horsemen, 20 knights to try and retake Osgiliath, It's like, what are you thinking? But when Billy Boyd is singing, that show don't tell is incredible. And here's how the great part of that is the final shot of Gandalf just sitting there, broken for a minute. That gets me, Jed. That scene.
Oh, absolutely. Ian McKellen is running on all cylinders in this entire trilogy, but especially this movie. And that scene, yeah, we don't need to see Faramir's army get decimated. I think that would have actually contradicted the somber tone that they'd been going for. So it's one of the few instances where I'm okay with them cutting action.
Like, and it's also great because as they're charging and as Billy Boyd's voice is fading, you just hear the stretching of the bowstrings, and you just soundlessly hear them fire. And that's all you need. And then Gandalf just sitting there, his staff on his shoulder, nobody else around. Oh, it's powerful.
There's a lot of moments like that. Like Horny Alf just pointed out another one when Gandalf is talking to Pippin about the afterlife when they've fallen back to the other walls inside.
When I was
just so beautiful. That's what Rings of Power should have been. Instead, we got, rocks don't look up. That's what we got instead of Gandalf saying beautiful things about the afterlife. About
now that we recently watched Tropic Thunder, I really do appreciate the Simple Jack joke about that guy even more now. I appreciate that joke even more now. I haven't recently done Tropic Thunder, but yeah, I mean, Dermy, you especially, I know you like the Billy Boyd song section. You like him singing, don't you? Yeah, you're a big fan of that.
I'm a big fan of Billy Boyd singing. Like it, he's just phenomenal. So much so that just him doing the little bar tunes, it's just charming because it feels like Pippin would actually do that. So when you get that moment where and we were talking about it last week when Pippin just was never really there. He was just like, oh, what are we doing? Oh, let's go. He was never really serious. This is the moment where he's like, oh shit, this stuff's serious. People are actually dying. He's having to sit there and sing this song that's actually very tragic.
Well, he's
while everybody's just dying.
Yeah. Now he's watching. He has been on the periphery of all this stuff, even though he's sort of been in it. He's been on the periphery, but now he's at the center because he screws up with the Palantir, and now he's thrust into the highest echelon of the world of men on the front line of this war, and he's watching somebody who he makes a quick little connection with Faramir. They have that nice little connection there, and he's watching Denethor just berate him and run him into the ground, and actually hear him say, when he asked, "Would you have liked it better if Boromir had come back and if I had gone?" Boromir said, "Yes, I wish it. If I was dead instead of him." And to Pippin, who lives previously in a world where everybody just cares for everybody. There's no hobbits can be a little quirky and weird and a little stupid, but there's no animosity in Hobbitdom. They're all just blissfully ignorant of that kind of stuff. They're mean, but their meanness comes out of ignorance and stupidity. Like when they're stealing stuff from somebody else, goes, "Oh, you're supposed to be dead. I'm just going to take it for myself because I don't give a shit." Well, but they're not. There's no malice in the Shire. But now Pippin is exposed to all this malice, and he's watching a father be brutally horrible to a son.
Well, and then just enjoying his meal while his son dies. He's just like, these are good tomatoes.
There's also like he's finally being exposed to the world, but also he has no other than Gandalf. Pippin's kind of all alone. Merry was his partner in crime forever, and he's taken away from Merry because of his own fuck up, and he doesn't really know how to cope. He's just trying to get through, and he's put into this position where he's saying
consequences.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy, right?
Now he has consequences, but then this movie, we talked about it last week, that this is the movie where Pippin shines. He gets hero moments. The lighting of the beacons. Lighting of the beacons is great because, first of all, it's that moment of hope. Because Gandalf says hope is rekindled. But it's all because Pippin needing the talents of Pippin to get it done. And it's just, and you watch it, and then the music is soaring, but it's Pippin who gets the ball rolling, and it's great. And again, let's be honest. We said before, as much as much of it kind of twerks my personal belief system of heroic moments and heroes of that. these hobbits are, at least in the movie version, they're there at the key moments to save the day. I mean, Eowyn doesn't
Pippin
get the kill
saves-
shot on Angmar without Merry.
Pippin saves Gandalf.
Well, yeah, Pippin saves Gandalf. Gandalf gets cut down if Pippin isn't there to nail that orc in the gut. But so Pippin saves Gandalf. Merry gives Eowyn the chance for the kill shot on Angmar, and of course Frodo and Sam.
Well, also that Merry getting that shot on Angmar goes to the theatrical scene the extended scene that was cut off right at the scouting, right before they crest the hill, where Merry says, "I'm just a hobbit. I'm not going to help save the world. I'm not going to do a whole lot of things." Then he does that.
Yeah.
Well, and I do have a bit of book to movie criticism here, just a little bit. And I am one of the few book readers who agree with the decision to cut out Tom Bombadil, but it does create a problem because in the books, the Angmar was put in that position to get killed by Eowyn specifically because of the type of sword that the hobbits were carrying. The type of swords that they had mattered. In the movies, Aragorn just has some daggers that kind of work, but they got their daggers in the books from a magical source, and it's specifically those blades that made that opening for Eowyn. And so I think it made a lot more sense in the book.
That little bit of context would have been good. Because it's always, for me, that whole scene, while done very well, I kind of do laugh at it because I can't help but think that when Eowyn's, when she's about to stab him, I'm thinking she's yelling at a green screen. I just think that's what I think. I can't help but think that, even though it works out fine, it looks great on screen. She's yelling at a green screen.
I want to take that scene also from a book reader's stance. Seeing it in the theater, I knew what was going on, and the reaction from everybody else around, it didn't matter. Even though you know that not everybody read it, you knew the way it was explained. No man could kill him.
Yeah,
I am no man.
But all right, so because I've done a little research on Angmar, and he went through a lot of duels. A lot of famous people died trying to take him out over the centuries.
Well, and also the prophecy, wasn't it?
I don't think so. Well, I don't know. I mean, Tolkien's very. I was remarking on that to myself lately. I mean, what is that? What was that?
It was probably me. There was a motorcycle outside.
Okay.
Dickhead.
Yeah. Tolkien's not too heavy on prophecy, is he, Mustang? He didn't really do a lot of prophetic.
Oh God, no,
he did not. Because also because he's a man of God in real life, so that kind of thing is.
No, there's prophecies in the Bible.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though. The book doesn't. The movie, the concept of rings, not a lot of prophecy. I mean, the only prophecy I could think of in the entire movie trilogy is again, this is an extended edition restoration of Legolas speaking of Aragorn's coming to getting the dead army. Other than that, there is no prophecy that I can really hear spoken of. But I want to ask this one quick question. But Jed, do you have to go now? Before I ask this, I don't want to get you caught up.
No, I can answer this question. Or
I want whatever his opinion. Mustang might have the most opinion on this.
Yeah.
Here's what gets me though. Talking about Eowyn taking out Angmar. In the extended edition, we get a little more post that where you get a little more extended fight, and crippled orc war boss is trying to gank her, and now she's just fought Angmar. That whole fight, she's out of her depth, and I love it how they show how out of her depth that she is. It's like, you can't do this, and she takes the hit. Her arm is literally broken when the shield blocked the mace swipe. She was broken. But other than that, what damage did she really take? Because we see her when Orc Boss is chasing her, and then Aragorn and Gimli save her. But then when Éomer finds her on the battle, she's near death. I don't understand what extra damage she took to put her so close to death.
Ringwraith killing.
Yeah.
It's all because she was there.
Okay.
Yeah, and Pippin, Merry had the same issue when Pippin found him. It was specifically because they were close quarters to a wraith getting dispersed.
Okay, so all right. I didn't know that part of the knowledge.
It's not the same thing that happened to Frodo on Weathertop, but some of the symptoms are similar.
Okay. Question answered then. I don't have a lot of deep lore knowledge, or even I read the books. I sort of read the books when I was a kid. I was too young to get through them, so I put them down. It was too hard a reading for a 10-year-old. I couldn't do it. So I put it down. But I did watch the Rankin Bass stuff over and over again as a kid.
Oh, good choice.
Well, yeah, it was when it was on, and I watched it. It was there. I saw Rankin Bass Return of the King more than Fellowship in my young life because it was always on. Again, those songs just beating you over the head. The wearer of the ring is the bearer of the ring.
I love those
in my head. But all right, you answer my question. There. All right, question answered. All right, Jets, you need to go now, don't you?
I do. Unfortunately, the hour main showtime was all that I could spare this evening, but it was great to hang out with you guys. I always love talking good movies with you guys. So I will catch you guys.
Throw us your score before you leave.
Ooh, yes, absolutely. What did I rate Two Towers? I did
9.5.
9.5.
Yes. So Return of the King, it's tied with Fellowship for me because I wasn't there for Fellowship, but with the 9.7 for both of them. I adore these movies. My criticisms are very minor. Even my stuff with Sauron's death,
yeah,
I'm okay with watching either way. It's just a slight preference for the theatrical version. That's all.
We have to work hard to find criticism.
Exactly, very hard. And
I have mine, but yeah, so I'll get to mine later. Yeah,
and Return of the King, I think, is the one that benefits from the cool factor the most. It just with how epic everything is, and that does contribute into it. And I have zero issue with the long endings. I know that's a lot of people's big problems with this movie. I would take another 7 endings. I adore those endings. I want to break out in tears every time Bilbo and Frodo say goodbye to the other hobbits at the very end, and it's just all the endings. I like my endings, and I feel like it's justified because think of it as one long movie, and that's 9 hours. And an ending is usually the last 10 minutes of a 2-hour movie. So comparable, it's the ending for all 3 movies. So it's justified to be slightly.
It's okay to go 30 minutes. It's fine.
Exactly. It makes sense in the grand scheme of things.
And then literally, because I checked the times today, if you're watching the extended edition, the credits are another 20 minutes. Credits are another 20 minutes. But that's okay. It's great music. Especially Into the West.
Very great music.
We'll talk about that at the end. That's part of my final comments. All right, Jed, thanks for being here. Next week, just to remind Jed, we are doing Diggstown because we're back to our choices that we didn't get to. We're doing Diggstown, James Woods, and Louis Gossett Jr. It's a boxing movie, and I love it.
I'll have to check it out. I have not seen that one, so you're going to get my fresh reaction.
It's good. All right, Jed, take it easy. We'll see you next time. See you tomorrow on Roundtable.
See you tomorrow, everyone.
Yeah, all right. Bye. All right. Okay, so I'm left with you two.
Oh wow, yeah, you're just left with us.
Well, my co-host
good to know
is
we're
left.
just us.
You're just guests. He's my co-host. Algrim the Strong for $9.99. To me, I think Theoden's face equals the statement made by Fat Doper inside the intentionally stalled elevator shaft in 2010 movie Punisher Warzone Part 1 of 2. All right, there'll be a second one. I've never seen Punisher Warzone. I can't comment.
And I'm not talking about elevators because of Dermy.
We're not bringing it up.
You broke the elevator.
No, stop. This is not Conan time. We are not talking Conan. Save that for later. Algrim, I'm sorry. I can't give that. I can't make that comparison. I've never seen the movie. I've never seen Punisher Wars, and the last Punisher movie I saw was the one where I forget his name. I think it was the middle one of the ones of the remakes. I don't remember. I know Kevin Nash was in it. That's the one I saw. I remember Kevin Nash. It's been a long time, so I don't know if I can. I definitely saw that one before 2010. I don't remember, so I don't know if I can. I'm sorry, Algrim. Thank you for the $9.99, but I can't relate that. I'm so sorry. I hate it when I can't give you a satisfying thing. Thank you again for the $9.99. Your support is always appreciated, my friend. As he's getting rid of the part before he gets the part 2 up, let's see. Where do we go from here?
Favorite scenes.
What? All right, we want to do favorite scenes. We'll do favorite scene, right, Jeremy? Since you have a favorite scene, what's your favorite scene?
The cresting of the hill and the charge. I'll pull that scene up. Every time I watch that scene, I'll just watch that scene on YouTube or something. Gives me goosebumps and chills. I love that scene.
It's great. I mean, I told you my story in the theater. Me and my buddy, we just went like this. We shamelessly cheered as they came charging down that as they came charging down that hill. Let's see. Mustang. What's your favorite scene right now?
Oh, I said it last week. The
I don't
bowing to
remember.
the hobbits.
Oh. I will never bend the knee to a hobbit.
I'd rather off them all.
That's Harfoot.
I know. I'm not talking about Harfoot. I just hobbits.
You hate hobbits.
I don't like halflings. I've never liked in all my fantasy life of DMing playing. I've never liked halflings. I like Kender, but I don't like halflings.
All I want is for you to do a DM on stream, and I'll just play a halfling now, just to piss
that's
you
never going to
off.
happen. I don't DM anymore. Here's the problem. Here's why I quit DMing, because I want to tell my story, and sometimes I don't want to turn it over to you crazy assholes who are going to take away from what I want the game I want to play. So I'm done DMing. I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. The scene is impressive there. I just don't.
It's everything leading up from the crowning to them. It's showing the entire story in that scene.
How so? Explain it to me.
You're getting the crowning of the king. You're getting love. He knows. He didn't know until right then. She has given up her immortal life to be with him. Mm-hmm. You're getting Legolas, Gimli. You're getting everything put into that scene, culminating with the bowing to the hobbits. It's not so much the bowing to the hobbits as a general rule; it's the entire scene.
Okay,
played
if
out.
you put it like that, I can appreciate where you're coming from more, because to me, the way you said it's like I like when they bow to the hobbits. I'm like,
it's not the ending scene, but it should be the ending scene. It's it's a hard one right there, because that brings everything together. The going away, okay, we understand it, but even when they were leaving, you didn't get the full ending to it. That was a good ending scene.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's the best scene out of all of it, because I'm with Tolkien. The battle scenes, I could do without them. I didn't need them.
I can't do without them. I need them. I like my fantasy battles. I love it. I want to see, because to me, Tolkien was about the horrors of war, as you so said a little bit ago.
Oh yeah,
the battles in these movies, especially this one, because it's not Helm's Deep and at night where you can't see everything going on. It's brutal, and I like it. And of course, then to me, the battle. Of course, I like action. I like action, but here's how much I appreciate the battles of the scenes. You guys know I like my hero one-on-ones. I love a good hero versus villain duel. Tolkien doesn't do that, so they didn't really do that in this stuff. They squeaked one out at the end of Fellowship, but again, it was very short, quick, very brutal, and I was okay with that. But they don't do that. So I take it where I can get it. Heroic army versus villain army, and watching the heroes overcome the larger force. Now, granted, one of my few criticisms is that there's zero strategy in all this, and they just got damn lucky. Aragorn shows up with the army of the dead. Damn lucky. Otherwise, they're toast, because they don't know. They don't have a strategy. There's no strategist saying do this, do that. No quick thinking. Turn on your heels. Basically, when the elephants come up, it's just reform the line. These are the small criticisms I have to look for, but I still like an army battle, because to build up what you say is it respects Tolkien, I think, because it shows you the horrors, especially with Éomer finding his sister near death on the field. His breakdown, it gets you, and Carl Urban sells the hell out of it in that.
They actually had wanted to try and put the Battle of Lothlorien in there too, and it's like, oh god, that would have just Christopher would have blown every head gasket he had left.
I appreciate what they did, because to me, by doing that, even though Tolkien doesn't like battles, I think when you look at that, it's still respect for Tolkien, because
it was done great. I won't argue that.
Yeah,
it's just as somebody that understands why Tolkien hated it, the battle was gratuitous for fan service.
I disagree. I don't think it's gratuitous. I think it's part of the formula for drawing you into that world. You can't talk about everything that goes on with everything happen without showing it. And if it had just happened off screen, I don't know how
Didn't
they
need
would
to
have
be
done
on
that.
screen. It was too much.
No, I disagree. I fundamentally disagree, but that's fine. I mean, I fundamentally disagree. I think that it's a well, even though I disagree with the strategy aspect of it, it's a well choreographed battle. I think it doesn't drag on too long, and frankly, with the exception of the additional, just like an additional minute and a half of Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas killing things with the Army of the Dead, in the extended edition and the theatrical, it's exactly the same length. There's not too much extra in there.
Very little, very little.
Yeah, it's the same. I also appreciate when the siege is happening, the horror of the siege and the fear, and Gandalf trying to rally everybody. I think it's all tonally perfect, and it doesn't drag on too long. I'm not bored. That's one of the things I want to say about this movie in general. Unlike even though Two Towers is my favorite of the three, there are no dragging moments in this one for me.
No, there's not in this one.
Barely any. I mean, a little bit of Frodo always drags on because I have very little respect for Frodo, but that's just we've already discussed that in previous shows. I have very little respect for Frodo as a hero. But 90% of the movie, there's no drag. We are at the apex, the climax, and it is just push. We're going. And I feel that the battle Pelennor Fields, it is just perfectly woven in there. I don't feel like it drags on.
Yeah, the fan in me doesn't have a problem with it and loved every second of it. The lover of Tolkien, I understood where it came from. There's only one scene in this entire show that I could take points away from, and I won't because of how great the entire show is in itself.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one scene, and that is the scene where Aragorn seemingly gets a sword, which he had the entire time. But that was set up for, I don't know why they actually did. I've never read why Peter didn't say, okay, we're just going to let him carry the sword the whole time, like he did in the books.
Well, because we talked about it last week.
We talked about this last week. Yeah, we talked about it last week. Mustang, you're the one that said it. I believe you were the one that said it last week.
I did, and I looked all week trying to find out why did they do that, and I couldn't find anything.
But you said yourself last week, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that it was a good change because it would have altered the character dynamics and interaction if he was carrying around the king's sword the whole time.
But that is also the scene that I look at and I go, I don't like. That would be the scene I would tear it apart for, because he should have had Narsil the whole time. There's no explanation from Peter why, but yet it's a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably the explanation would end up being the same reason we gave. It takes away from everything, and it's him fighting. Part of the thing is also the comment that Elrond makes: cast aside the ranger, take up the king, be the king.
Yeah, those are all theatrical.
Well, I know it's theatrical, but it's also part of the story. It's part of the elements, and it's a perfect timing to introduce that. That's the whole point. That's probably going to be his answer to it.
Real quick, because Algrim was having difficulties, I'll bring it up here. In response to my saying I never saw it before. Just before his head is detonated by Frank Castle wielding dual Berettas, this dude in the elevator exclaims, "Oh, for F's sake!" That's Théoden seeing the approaching Witch King. Okay, never apologize for technical difficulties because we suffer them all the time, and we just blame our own boomers on. But thank you again, Algrim. Okay, again, I'm sorry I can't relate to because I didn't see the movie, so I can't give you a full personal comparison to that.
And yes, JB, I fully understand why that scene is there. I've always looked for a reason why Peter did it, and there's nothing that I can find on record of why they did it that way. That is just one of those things that I've always like, why did he do it? Because it's actually better done that way than the way Tolkien did it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, the professor, we all respect him, but Professor isn't perfect. He's not perfect, though. There are probably better ways to have done a lot of things, and here's one of those rare instances where I think we've stumbled upon it. This makes for a better presentation, a better impact of a situation.
It's just me and somebody that's spent.
Well, you are a traditionalist. You're a traditionalist for this stuff, and
for this it is.
Yeah. You're a traditionalist. I'm not gonna, dude. How many times you heard me bitch about lore and accuracy? And the only reason we always make acceptances for the Lord of the Rings trilogy is because Peter Jackson did what he did out of respect for Tolkien. He did it out of love. So the changes aren't made to spite. It's made to make a better presentation of the material so that people could walk in and, if they aren't book readers, still get drawn in and have a mind-blowingly entertaining experience. And I know there is a very small population of Tolkien fans out there who despise these movies.
Yes, there are. There are.
Yeah,
Very.
I wouldn't say it's even small. I think it's a decent sized chunk that really hate these movies. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
there's
I don't.
several.
I mean, in my wanderings, I never see them. That's why I say small. I never see them. They're never out there. They never say anything publicly too much. At least in my recent years of social media experience.
It's usually because they know that people really love these movies.
They'll get steamrolled.
Yeah.
It used to be a lot more prominent long before Twitter and everything. That when Prodigy and AOL started out, there were actually forums where we used to go and discuss this, and it was a discussion like we're having now. And I would say it was probably 20% of the fans were that way. But now there's no way they're going to say it now, because you say something, everybody's going to steamroll you. Yeah,
this is part of our zeitgeist now. It's part of our cultural zeitgeist. And listen, again, I have never claimed to be a hardcore Tolkien Lord of the Rings fan. I told you, I tried reading the books as a youth. I couldn't get through it. And by the time I was old enough to read them, I had moved on to other books. But the Rankin Bass stuff is a part of my childhood, from The Hobbit to Fellowship to Return of the King. That was always there, always on. I've been gifted. At one point, my cousin, all my cousins were adults when I was a kid. He gave me the graphic novel version of Hobbit. I didn't realize, if I had known how important that was. Now that I know the history, I've heard over the past couple of years now how when the importance that went into making that. God damn, I wish I treated that with a little bit better respect, because I just was like, oh, Hobbit, yeah, I know the story, and I just tossed it aside because I wasn't reading comic books anymore, and I wasn't a hardcore Lord of the Rings fan as a kid. When I went to my teenage years, it wasn't a part of my life. It wasn't until these movies surfaced as something that I got pulled back into Middle Earth, and I understood how important it is. And then as I started to take writing seriously, wanting to be an author, and I understood the importance of Tolkien, that he is the foundation of fantasy fiction.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to take more time to look into this and and properly understand what Tolkien means and get really into it. And then I had some friends who were really into this stuff in college. So we're talking when this came out, when Fellowship came out, posters. I had one chick who I knew who she was obsessed with Elijah Wood. So I mean, it was this. Then it took off, and then we all got into it again, and then suddenly Lord of the Rings isn't a niche outside thing. It's part of our culture now. So from the traditionalist, purist aspect, at being a traditional purist on a lot of things, I can understand that, but I don't understand the hatred of it, because it's done with love. It's done with respect. I don't understand that.
I've never understood it. I mean, you know, I have read everything he's ever done, and Christopher. And I think what it comes down to, and this is just speculation from seeing it for so many years on the internet and other places, I think there are some people out there that no matter how good something is done, they are going to be rabid devotees of protecting what the professor said he wanted. And yet, even in doing that, they forget some of the letters that he wrote where he wanted people to be able to interpret. I mean, he sold the book rights. He knew this could happen. So he knew in his heart somebody could do this. The only thing he was so specific on ever was never let Disney have it. That was oh my God, his loathing for
well, that's
Disney.
never going to happen now. It's never going to happen now between Embracer, Amazon with their little bit, and of course Warner Discovery, because now Warner Discovery and Embracer, they're linked forever now with this.
Oh yeah,
with each other.
Oh,
That's not coming unraveled. Disney will never. The mouse will never get his white gloved hands on it ever. I find it interesting. We've talked some about the movie here, but I find it interesting that we're talking a lot about the effect that this movie and the franchise is having, and I think it's appropriate considering this is the anniversary of the release.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an appropriate conversation because, as we've said with every one of these discussions, it's hard to talk about these movies because they've been talked about constantly for people on streams, podcasts, recorded videos for years upon years now, and
God,
bigger.
Tom Shipley made a life out of it.
Yeah, bigger, more popular streams than us. I mean, I'm just happy right now, and as far as I know, that Gary isn't steamrolling us today with a stream for Return of the King. I'm just happy that's not happening, so we have at least a little bit of wiggle room to talk about this stuff without under the shadow of another big fan of this. But so it's I'm happy that we found an interesting way to talk about this today, rather than just we've talked about the movie, but we're also talking about the impact, what it means, and how it feels to be a fan of this stuff on different levels. I mean, all three of us here, I think, easily classify in the different levels of where we are in the Lord of the Rings fandom. I mean, Mustang being the closest to the traditional purist who knows all the lore, what he remembers of it. You're in your own words.
Getting older.
Get to messing with you.
Getting older.
Still not as old as Adam. Don't worry. You're good.
No, he is older than me.
No, you're older. You're as old as time.
Dude, I knew Moses.
Yeah, but
I'm
descended from Moses.
I'm descended from Moses.
Adam helped deliver Moses. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, Adam was here when God,
That's you're saying I was a slave in Egypt? Is that what you're saying?
You do have a gem, and you hid it under your pyramid.
When God was playing pool and decided
hiding
to
my
Big
shame.
Bang, that was when that's when you were created. You were created at the
JB,
beginning
I
of the
do
Big
know
Bang.
it.
Anyway, as I'm saying though, but I mean, I'm the slightly above casual fan because I'm not hardcore, but I do my research when I need to, and I've done my research on my own time over the years to familiarize myself with a lot of stuff, specifically with characters or first age or second age stuff, which is why when we went into Rings of Power, I at least knew some of the abominational crap that was going on. But
I'm slightly above you.
And then, then Dermy's a rung above me. He knows probably more than I do then. So we've got different representations of this stuff. And if Jed was here, he'd probably be able to notch himself on that too. But we all believe in one thing: respect for Tolkien, respect for the lore. And Peter Jackson's trilogy respected the lore. Changes were made, things were left out, things were moved around, but it was done with care and tenderness, and topped off by knowing what it should look like. Knowing what we saw on the screen is what Middle-earth, what Lord of the Rings, what all those characters, what they should look like. I mean, I want to talk about this now. One of my favorite things, I can say honestly, I don't really have in this a specific favorite scene. Unlike the other ones, it's moments that I like, but it's not a scene. I believe who mentioned before. Nimbus Angelo mentioned earlier. I really love it when Sam gives his speech and carries Frodo up the mountain before Gollum ambushes them. But I don't like the whole scene. I love the Battle of Pelennor Fields, but I don't like the whole thing because I have small criticism. I love the show and don't tell aspect of Faramir's charge at Osgiliath, but I'm not a fan of the whole scene. But I like that that moment of Gandalf sitting there really gets me. So I like moments. But so it's all about the moments for me. But the respect really shows for me in this at the very end. We're in the credits now when the Into the West is being sung, and you're seeing the sketch artwork of everything. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That I sit there. I stopped what I was doing. Actually, no, I think I'd already stopped playing Conan at that point, or I stopped playing Conan either right then and then. I stopped and I sat there and watched it because I love watching the ending credits because I love that sketch artwork, and I love that. And that song is great because it's hopeful, and this whole movie is about hope, holding on to that hope, not giving up hope, having faith that not a miracle is going to happen, but that those you put your faith in are going to come through for you. That being said, anybody else want to bring up something else as we start to wind down?
No, I think we hit it because, like, my favorite scene is the crest and the hill and the charge of the Rohirrim, but that's just because I love the Rohirrim so much. Other than that, this movie is perfect.
Yeah, we're not doing a scene by scene dissection. We're not going to do a scene by scene dissection. We're not doing all the stuff. If we had more people here, and I didn't put out the call this week because we were trying to get a special guest, but that kind of fell through. So I didn't want to gum up the works of that. So that's why there's only still the three of us here right now. But if we have more people, maybe we could spread it out, have different discussions. But between us, we've carried on the kind of theme to what we've discussed over the past 3 weeks. We've stayed within the room we're talking. So, Mustang, you have anything else you want to bring up before we wind down?
Yeah.
Sure.
When we have streams, whether it's this one, Monday, or any of the Wednesday, really a lot, somehow Tolkien always seems to work its way in. And that shows the importance.
Well, it's always also in the news right now.
Well, no, I'm not even that. I'm saying Tolkien's, whenever you bring up even Star Wars, anything, you can always bring some Tolkien into it. His influence and these shows' influence in other shows and film industry, just the power. This one specifically, Return of the King, was influential in so many aspects of filmmaking.
Oh yeah,
fandoms.
CGI
This is one of the most. Yeah, this is one of the most powerful shows ever made.
Everybody thought they needed to have massive battles at the end of their trilogy.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, I can tell you now. In recent years, I've removed a lot of massive battles from what I'm working on right now. I've kind of redone.
You only need a handful of massive battles. You can splinter in small battles, but your massive battles need to have actual effects.
Right now. I can say them in the Chronicles of Rosetta series I'm working on right now. Right now, only major, and I'm talking army on army battle. Book 3 of 5. After that, I've kind of there might be one more, but in book 5, I've definitely rethunk. That's because I've changed the story somewhat, so I've changed a lot of aspects. So it kind of doesn't make sense anymore. But that now I do love big battles. I admit a lot of what I do. There are big battles in a lot of stuff because I believe in it. But I think it's all about execution. If the stakes are right, Jeremy, you said it. If the stakes are there.
Mm-hmm.
If you've built it up, if you set up certain things, and I'm a firm believer in protagonists. And when I say protagonists, I don't just mean your central one. I believe the companions that surround your main protagonist. If you set up rivalries or animosity between certain things, it deserves a fight. And sometimes it so happens to be in the middle of a big battle. At least that's the way I tend to do it. And that's how I kind of make big battles work, is I tie stakes of that. I tie resolution into it. Like, okay, these characters are coming to a head. Here's that coming to a head moment in all these big battles. And do I rarely admit that some of what I do is cliched? Yeah, I do it. But you know what? It's also, I believe, fan service.
Well, I like to bring Gundam into a lot of this. The original Gundam series only has like 2 big battles that they're actually a part of. There's a bunch of small moments and small skirmishes that they get into, but for the most part, there's only 2 big battles that they actually participate in.
Mhm.
Other than that, it's all just everything else. And those battles actually had consequences.
But I believe the
Nimbus
consequences. Go ahead. What was I saying?
So Nimbus brings up something really important in chat in a comparison to Rings of Power. How Peter Jackson did show it, because Peter Jackson stuck with what the professor said in his letters about where the people were from, specifically in our world.
Yep.
I will say that Herodrum on top of those elephants, he looked like he was having a time of his life.
And
Dude,
when Aomir has his hero moment, hero mode activated, and just pegs him with that spear, they're just like, yeah. I just love that.
I just love how that elephant guy's like, yeah, this is fun.
But then he locks eyes. But he locked eyes with Aomir. He's like, yeah, you're going down, bitch. I do want to mention one more thing that I do like, though. I mean, I was sidetracking with talk of battles. I did love when Frodo has been captured by the orcs. Now, again, this is Tolkien, not Warhammer. But Warhammer is, of course, like everything else, pulling from Tolkien when they make stuff. When the orcs start to fight, again, me and my buddy, Warhammer players, sitting in the theater on that overnight, we just look, when they started to fight, we just looked at it and said, animosity. Because in Warhammer, if you play orcs, and I played orcs in Warhammer, beginning of every turn, you have to take animosity rolls, an animosity test. And if you fail, your own orcs will start fighting with each other. So when the orcs start fighting with each other, we just went animosity. Yes, that is one of my favorite scenes. I will say that then. I'll correct myself. That is one of my favorite scenes when the orcs starts killing each other in Barad-dûr. It's like, yes, animosity will always be their downfall. They will always fight each other in the end.
Can I just say, if I ever play Warhammer or Warhammer 40K, I'm playing orcs.
Wog! The Wog.
Why wouldn't
stop
you?
The Wog. You cannot
they're
stop
just
the Wog.
Fun. Why wouldn't you play them?
Yes.
I'm not here to actually be strategic. I'm here to have fun.
The Wog will one of the greatest things, and I really hope when Cavill does 40K that he somehow gets some Wog in there. I want to see a green skin horde. I want to see the Wog wash across the galaxy. I want to see it. I want to see those greenskins. I want to see them crush it. Orcs don't care about anything except destruction. It's not even chaos. They just want to destroy, and I love it. Greenskins!
They're psychic, and their abilities help their opponents sometimes. They have guns that are broken and don't shoot bullets, but because they believe they do, it works, and red things go fast.
It's about... with orcs, it's about the intent, and it's about their numbers. They have, when a Wog forms, it just gets so huge, it's unstoppable. And the only way to stop it is to kill the war boss. That's why I said I don't understand crippled, because again, it's not Warhammer, it's Tolkien, but I see crippled war boss, and I'm thinking, how are they following this guy's orders? I know Witch King's in charge of this army at this point, but this guy's a crippled gimp. He couldn't beat any one of them in hand-to-hand combat. There's no war boss mentality. War boss rules.
If I would have to bet, yeah, he ate their mother. But if I would actually have to bet, it's because remember that boulder or the part of the castle that they flung, and that he basically played chicken with. I'm willing to bet that's why he has the most courage. I would say, yeah, he has the most balls.
I'll give you that. But again, I'm seeing it's in conflict with my Warhammer orc mentality. Nobody, the war boss is the biggest, strongest one that nobody can beat. Doesn't matter how smart or stupid they are. It's just they are the war boss, and they win because they terrify everybody else because they're bigger and stronger, and they have a mutation. That's the thing about the orcs; they have mutations that make them bigger and stronger. So they're just the one, or they're a black orc, and they just don't give a shit about anything.
It also might be because he was the smartest.
Maybe.
Because
then again,
orcs aren't the brightest, but he seemed to know what he was doing.
The only reason I kind of gloss over to him because Angmar was in charge. He was there. He was in charge. He was the one in charge. And he was the war boss. Either way. All right. if we don't have anything else, I feel comfortable wrapping up. We've ranged far and wide, talked about a lot of cool stuff, and again, this could go on forever, but we do want to rein it in because I'm hungry. I haven't eaten dinner yet, as usual with these early streams.
Same here.
Also, because my menu is all fucked up this week. I don't have anything pre-prepared. I have to first go make my calzone right now. Anyway, so let's do the ratings. I will go first this week because I haven't gone first every 2 weeks. I give it. I'm the same as Jed, 9.7. I rate it higher than Fellowship. Wait, and I'm gonna give it. I think I said 9.7 for Two Towers. Like I give it Eagle just because of it really doesn't do anything wrong. I mean, my nitpicks are personal annoyances. Like I still am annoyed by Frodo, or I question the lack of strategy in combat situations, but it doesn't destroy the movie. But it's small little things like that. A couple hinky moments in terms of scene exchanges, but it's still, there's nothing wrong with this movie. I was still thoroughly entertained and pleased today when I finished it. Excuse me, just fighting off a hiccup there. I didn't succeed. So 9.7 out of 10. Dermy.
I'm gonna do 9.7. Two Towers is my personal favorite. 9.7, even though this has possibly my favorite scene in it, it just has you have too many endings. Way too many endings.
You're on the anti-ending crew. You're on the anti-ending thing.
The extended cut added an ending. You don't need that many endings.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. So 9.7 for Dermy. Mustang.
It's a perfect 10.
Perfect 10.
I put aside the book person. This is a perfect 10. This movie, it's so culturally important. You have to give it the 10.
Right.
It's also 11 Academy Awards. Come on.
Mm-hmm. JB gives it 11 out of 10, and Gary can suck hobbit toes. Okay, I don't know where that's coming from, but okay.
Yeah, no, this one's one where I could put aside every bit of my love for Tolkien and say, this is as close as you're going to get for a one-to-one that a production company could do, unless they give them a unlimited budget and tell the theaters, suck it, it's going to be 6 hours.
You know what? Look at what happened the past 72 hours. People showed up for a 4-hour movie.
I want the 20-hour cuts.
Peter's got them.
I want them. I will sit my ass down. I will sit my ass down. I will cut everything out of the day. I will sit down and watch it back to back.
The thing is, since I personally just don't want to spend 4 hours in a theater because I have the same exact movie right here. Now, if I was going with a group of people, maybe if it was an experience, maybe if I had a family right now and I would take my kids to see it in the theater, that would be a reason. But since I have only myself, unfortunately, just to deal with, I got it right here. Flip it around.
This is what I bet's going on, because after I saw
the
lines at the theater today, my guts tell me parents are taking their kids to see Mario, doing lunch, and then going back for Lord of the Rings. Because I was shocked.
Distinct possibility.
The worst theater in our town, when we left Lowe's today, I looked over at it and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen that place packed since Twilight, probably.
See, I'm not sure if my local Cinemark was even airing this. I didn't look to see, so I don't know if it was here or not. So I might not have been able to go see it anyway. But again, like I said, I have only myself. I have no girlfriend right now. I definitely don't have a wife and children. So I just have myself to please. So I'm going to sit here in this chair with a broken wheel and play Conan and watch it here comfortably in air conditioning because it was 80 degrees today. So, all right then. That's it. Thank you. Thanks to Dermy Mustang for being here for all three sessions, for showing up when nobody else would. Even Jed for one day.
Well, I love you guys, and I won't be on Conan tonight. I'll be playing Sea of Thieves.
I don't even know if I'm going to stream tonight. I might just go back, and if I do go on, I might be just gathering mats again for a build stream tomorrow night, because I'm even though I got 8 hours last night, I'm tired still, and I'm still sort of distracted, and plus I still have to eat. It's going to be another 2 hours before I'm done ready. So if I come on tonight, I'm just going to be, it'll be solo play for just gathering mats.
I'm collecting red shirts, and I'm extending out my, well, as you called it, a fortress off cam the other night. It's going to now be a city.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, sure.
I'd be satisfied when I extend mine into a town.
I'll be satisfied when I finish mine.
You'd be satisfied when you build a house. Anyway.
Oh, you got a lot of math waiting for you, Dermy.
So, again, thank you to Mustang Dermy, always to my actual real co-host, Jed. Until we get another co-host on here. Thanks to Jed for being here. Jed has other responsibilities with Geeks and Gamers, so he can't always be here these days, but we thank Jed for being here. We'll see Jed tomorrow on Roundtable Though. If you're watching on the replay, if you're watching your live chat, we know you guys are here. You guys were active. We love you again. We always apologize if we don't interact with you as much on Saturday Night Driving because it's one of these discussion type things where we kind of are playing off each other, diving in, and unless a super chat does, then earn the right to be answered. We touch base with you, Mr. Ken, but we thank you for being here. We know you had a good time. We love you. Without you, we aren't here. And if you're watching on the replay, we hope you can join us in the future for Saturday Night Drive-In. If you did have a good time, hit that like button, leave a comment, and we will see you next time. Until then, everybody, take it easy and have a good night or day wherever you may be. Take it easy, guys. Whoop, there it is.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your hearts. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, little boy. Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Al.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Ooh, got it in there just in time. Timing is everything. All right, guys, great show. Again, thanks for being here, guys. And